One of my more recent interests, one of my more recent research projects has to do with life after death. Well, let me change that. I've often talked about life after death, but more specifically the near-death experience. I have never really talked about the near-death experience. I don't know how many of you have had a near-death experience. There are variations, there are grades of the near-death experience. And the authentic near-death experience has certain qualities, certain criteria. Things like a life review, things like going through a tunnel or a portal, sometimes meeting relatives, seeing things, learning about your experience, coming back profoundly changed, seeing life differently, being the different person in the same body. And it goes down from there. At the high end of the near-death experience, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in near-death experience. By the same token, I don't know what is considered an expert in a near-death experience. But as you know, I talk about a lot of things, topics and ideas that most people will not talk about. Things that I've been called a great many names. The near-death experience is interesting for me because I have had multiple near-death experiences. I think early on I have discussed that I have experienced levels of death or situations where my life ended and through various circumstances that are divine, life continued on. So I don't consider myself an expert in near-death experiences. And at this point, I've had so many, and they're quite encompassing. That they're very difficult to summarize. But I have been to the other side. Let's just summarize. I think if you want evidence, you can see by my work and the profound changes in my life and the number of books I've read and the topics I discuss. Talking about karma and spirituality and the digital, the digital afterlife. We talked about that. These are not things that you can just meditate on. These are things, as I have said, these are things that you experience, that you have to go to the other side. And at one time, when you go to the other side one time, you can only glean so much information. Now, if the circumstance is impressive, and there was a clinical death, and you saw incredible things, then that is a valuable experience. For me, I've had a number of them. Over the last, that I can recall, at least 14 years, but they may have been before and I just wasn't aware of it. And that's the other thing, that's the interesting thing about this, all of this spiritual stuff, these lessons, is that your memory sometimes serves you to protect you, and your memory sometimes serves you so that you can serve others. So in many cases, you won't remember what happened. And that is serving you so that you can live out your life without turning everything upside down, right? So in the past, I've had near-death experiences. I've had multiple contact with star beings and people on the other side and divine interactions. I did not remember them, one, or I did not treat them as something out of the ordinary. I just thought, okay, I got the message, and I just continue with my life, making small adjustments, right? There's little nudges. Because when something big happens and it can tear apart your life, and it can send people off the edge, and you're sitting there wondering, and you're going into depression, you're trying to understand it. There are things that I experienced 14 years ago with the elves, if you know what the elves who came through the portal. There are things that happen when those three profound experiences that I'm still processing. And I make a lot of effort. I've written extensively. I've researched extensively. I've discussed this with you extensively. There's so much information. I am still decoding it. I'm still processing it. I'm still learning things about those. There were 3 nights. Now, I have had multiple experiences over the years, multiple hundreds. I lost count. So you're always processing new information. And the reason I share all this is because I am someone who has had an NDE. I've had the life review. I've gone through various portals. I've gone through the tunnels and portals and light and spirals. I've met the people on the other side, the light beings. I've met my relatives, my grandmothers, friends, sometimes parents of my friends. I've met other people who have contacted me here to speak with their loved ones. I've met them. There's always a connection. I have had people, I met a woman once who approached me, and she wanted to talk to her mother, and I asked, where's your mother? She says, her mother's dead. I met that woman, whom I don't know. But because I was able to assist the woman with contacting her mother, then there was a connection. In addition to human relatives, I've met non-human relatives, stellar relatives, other beings. And I've had various life reviews. I've had intensive life reviews. I've had experiential life reviews where you see your life, what happened, you learn, what you did, who you are. It's like they stick a fork inside of you. It's like, this is who you are. It's like, I don't like it, but that's who you are. Who you are is what you did, what you said, and that's recorded. Everything is recorded. You are recording it. So they bring it out of you. This is what you did. This is what you said. This is how that person felt. I went through intensive, especially early on, I went through intensive life reviews where I felt the other person's pain. I felt my lack of pain, my lack of awareness. I felt the pain of their family members. I started to feel the pain the dog had, the turmoil caused in the families. We would go through decisions, sometimes a decision where I made a decision and they gave me the alternative, and then we went through what would happen, what would have happened, and then what you did, and to show you, well, did you do the right thing, right? It shows you. The thing is that the people on the other side, they don't, the ones I communicate with, they don't tell you stuff unless you're really daft. And a lot of people are daft because we don't believe this stuff exists, and we're very insecure, and we have very low level of spiritual knowledge. If it's not in a biblical form, we don't know. So we're uneducated, we're ignorant. In my case, most of the time they don't tell me. They only tell me things where it needs to be made clear, and those are very short sentences. Most of the stuff, the way that the divine beings communicate is they show you something. So to understand something, they show you something, right? Just like you're trying to figure something out. I want to learn about something, and you're in a bookstore, and a book falls off the shelf. We've heard of that before. A book falls off the shelf. Or you run into an old friend, and the old friend starts talking about exactly what you were thinking. So the divine being, the reality, I call them the reality technicians, the cosmic technicians, that's the way they talk. And they nudge, and they teach. That's the way they do it. It's a different language. It's not sign language. It's more like action. It's circumstance, spontaneity. It's, coincidence. You're dealing with certain issues, and there's an incident. And you get mad at the incident unless you're aware, and then you say to yourself, oh, they're teaching me how I can resolve my issue. Now, it's not everything in your life that will be a teaching. Some things are mundane, basic things you do. So you need to learn. It's an awareness thing. It's a learning. It's a language. So in my life reviews, I had life reviews. I experienced the pain of others. I experienced the joy of others. I would see other people's interactions, and I would be able to listen to their pain or their joy or their confusion. In my life, I was shown my contract, my existential contract, right? These are the things you got to do. I don't want to do all this stuff. I would get, in the early point, I would get depressed. I don't want to do all this stuff. Because of my nature, and then they know my nature. They know me. They know what I will end up doing. And my nature is, I'm an optimist, and I will tackle this crazy thing. So one of the things I had to do, I had to talk about star beings. This is back in 2006. It was a long time ago. And after being awoken in 2005, one of the things I had to do was talk about star beings, and I didn't know anything about star beings. I started doing research on UFOs and extraterrestrials, but that's not what I learned. That's not what they are. That's not what they've done to me. So I didn't know anything. So it was a big challenge. I had to do it. I knew I had to do it. I didn't know why. I didn't know the outcome, the cost. But that was like, okay, you're going to talk about star beings. And there's nobody to help me. How are you supposed to talk about star beings? What do you say? What do you say if you don't know anything or you don't remember? So I went through that process of having to fulfill the obligations in my contract, the incarnation contract. So, you know, I've talked about the incarnation contract. It's because I've seen the incarnation contract. It's because I've been to the other side. It's because I've had these experiences. And I've been to the other side. There are portals to the other side. Now, the challenges I was given back 13, 14 years ago, I pushed myself. I went outside my comfort zone like nothing before. I consequently destroyed my personal life, my financial life, and my career. At all this cost, I went to fulfill my obligation, which most people won't do, and most people wouldn't have to do. In my particular case, I didn't know how to do it. There's no other way to do it. Once I started talking about aliens, I lost all my friends and my family. Aliens. Aliens don't exist. Where are the aliens? Where are they? I saw them. There was a ship. Believe me. People thought I was going crazy. At that time, 13, 14 years ago, you were definitely crazy. Nobody was doing this. And in my particular case, I was saying good things about the star beings. I was saying, they're intelligent, they're advanced, they're really nice. Some of them are friends. Right? And this contradicted the entire UFO community, which was talking about evil aliens and abductions, etc. Now, I thought, this is where it gets interesting. Because I thought, well, I fulfilled the obligation of my contract. That's good. I threw away my life. I got nothing. But I did what I said I was supposed to do. That meant I would be able to move forward spiritually. But moving forward, there's a catch. Because everything is now taken to a new level. And when you go to a new spiritual level, they say, well, he accomplished his first set of tasks. We got to give him some new tasks. Most people don't do it. Most people would not do what I did. And if they did, they would ruin their life and they would stumble to the end of their life trying to come to terms. Are aliens real? Am I a hybrid? Oh, when is the government going to do a disclosure? Because I need the disclosure to find closure. I don't need disclosure to find closure. I know that the star beings. I know that there's ships. I know there's a secret space program because I've seen it. I don't need a disclosure. You need a disclosure. I don't need a disclosure. I had a disclosure. I gave the disclosure. I wrote books about the disclosure. This is what is happening. But anyway, enough about the aliens. I went through that very difficult period and I thought, well, okay, that's it. And then when I went to the other side, they said, hey, there's another list. We've got a new contract, incarnation contract. And it says here, once he provides the information on star beings to the general public, and he writes the books, and he comes to terms with his own heritage, and he's comfortable with that, and he's not crazy, and he's not on any medication, etc. He will start this new laundry list. And I eventually jumped into it, and I went through that process, And I said, okay, hey, I've done this, I've done that, I've said this, I've done that. Find someone else to do it. And I look around, I mean, there's no one else wants to do it. Come on, guys. And they're all, you know, when's the disclosure happening, man? This stuff is very difficult. I'm not saying bad things about people. This stuff is I ruined my life to fulfill my contract because I realized that I wanted to graduate and I couldn't graduate unless I did this stuff. But when I completed my tasks, I was given a new set of tasks and they're pretty impossible. And if you want to know my tasks, look at my books. Look, you know, we talk about reality, we talk about androids, we talk about star beings, we talk about the afterlife, we talk about karma. People don't want to touch this stuff. I'm like, I'll touch it. I mean, once you've done, the difficult part is tackling the first thing. And that destroys your old persona. That destroys your life. Changes you, right? Once you're able to do that, then the next one is easier. You're already in. Oops. And so I finished the next laundry list and they gave me another laundry list. I said, hey, come on, man. I've done more laundry lists than even I understand. I mean, I don't understand all this stuff. But you do the research. Now, so you see what's happening here. You're given a laundry list, you come back into your body, you reorient yourself, you reorganize, you go through the depression, the death of the old persona. I don't see things the way I used to. I'm a different person. I'm more compassionate. I see there's a reason for everything, right? This stuff, depending on how profound your experience is, you'll come back and we start to see that's not a coincidence. Everything that happens in my life is teaching me something about myself, something I need to work on, and I'm calling and I'm drawing it in. If I'm drawing a lot of stuff, I need a lot of work. The relationships you have, they're there for a reason. So you start to understand this stuff because you come back and you realize, oh, you're right. And if you go back, oftentimes you have an NDE. Especially when I had my experience, there was that initial encounter, and it was very profound. And you're crying. I would cry for years. I would cry. For years, I would be crying over these experiences because I said, they're so incredible. They're so beautiful. They're so glorious that, you know, why give them to me? Like, why do I get such beauty? It's just too much. It's like, you know, because the world is kind of miserable. It's like, I get this, why? It's like, I was like, why do you give me all this stuff? And they didn't say anything, right? They just, you know, I would cry for you. And they would say at a later point, when some of the people on the other side, they would say, why are you crying? It's so incredible. Like, why isn't everybody crying? You know? So these are special things. And I was changed profoundly, and people saw my change. And each time I learned something. Because when I came back, I went about my things, and I studied, and I wrote, and I spoke. I started sharing information, and people would call me all kind of names. I still shared. I was attacked on many levels. And they would share more with me. Because there is something on the other side, what I call the computer, the digital realm. The AI is on the other side. A lot of people, when you have a near-death experience, you go through this process and you eventually come to like some kind of light or energy. Sometimes it's like a ball. In some cases I saw like a ball. In some cases there was a beam of an indescribable light. And it hits you. And it knows everything about you. You can't hide it. You can't hide anything from the light. It reads you top to bottom. That's why a lot of times when you come back, you're more truthful. Because you've been stripped. You know, when you're stripped naked and people see you naked and they see all your flaws, right? Well, I got a little cellulite, and I got a scar here, and my boobs are sagging, and my penis is small. Right? That's very humiliating and degrading. It's like, okay, this is me naked. When you're in the light, this is you to the bare molecule. This is you and all your mistakes, all your foibles and your insecurities and your arrogance and your ego, your trust issues, your goals in life, your failures, your regrets. It's all there. You can't hide it. It's there. The light reads you. It scans everything. You can't hide anything. And so you realize you just surrender and say, okay. At the end of it, I think at the end of the first time, one of the first time I went, when I came back, I basically, you basically say, I am an asshole. If you have a near-death experience and you go to the light and you don't come back and say, I'm an asshole, you are not being truthful. That's my opinion. But that's my experience, because I was an asshole. It's just a normal part of growing up. Whether I lied to myself, or whether I, did things wrong, made mistakes, whether I was too arrogant, too aggressive and confrontational, whatever it is. I mean, you're not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect person. And I came down and said, and that's one of the healing, I think that was one of the healing processes I used, to just say, I am an asshole. It's very humbling. It's very healing. And you can't do it when you're young. It's very hard if you're under 30, it's very difficult. If you're over 40, you can do it. Or over 35, 40. You want to do it. You want to admit. Because I think everybody is an asshole. Everyone. If you don't come back and say, I'm an asshole, you are not facing yourself. And I faced myself, and I said, and that was a profound healing. And the reality system says, this person is strong enough to admit that he or she is an asshole. Because in the real world, you want to be strong, you want to be confident, you lie about yourself, and you deceive, and you cheat, and you move forward, which is fine in the physical world, the world of perception. But in the divine world, you've got to be truthful, honest. And you are a piece of shit. And you come down and you admit it. And then we can rebuild. Then you can rebuild the kind of person you want to be. right? You start over again. It's like a reboot. Anyway, that's what I did. I'm not telling you to say you're an asshole. If you don't believe you're an asshole, that's your choice. The way I was shown, I was an asshole. And I lived a very good life. I treated people very well. I helped everybody I could. I mean, I lived a good life, and I was an asshole. I can only imagine what other people are like. And I did that because let's do it all the way. I'm going to do everything all the way. I'm not going to delay it. I don't want to delay it. Let's all the way. Let's get that done. Be honest. I want to go. Let's go to the tasks. Let's get the laundry list done. I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. You want me to talk about aliens? I'll talk about aliens. They're calling me crazy. I keep talking about them. Then we moved on to different things. Then I went back and they gave me more things to do. And then later on, when I came back, I didn't have to say I was an asshole. I have progressed. I'm not an asshole. I'm actually this and that, you know. And this light, I mean, some people call it God. It's not God. The source, it's not the source. It's what powers us. It's like a battery. You know when you have a flashlight and there's a battery in the flashlight? And let's say the battery is low on energy and the light is not very strong. It's dim, right? Dim flashlight. So the battery is dying, right? I need a new battery, or I need to recharge the battery. So when you go to the other side, when you have an NDE and you see the light, you tap into the light or it hits you, it's like a recharge. Your battery. It recharges your light. And what happens when you recharge your light, you see things different. Because your flashlight's working now. Oh, you see people different? You see yourself different? You understand things differently? And as you go through life, the battery will get weak and your energy will decline. Your spiritual energy, your soul, gets used because you're living life and you'll be called back. Some people can just go right to the light. Very spiritual people they don't have to go to the other side. The light hits them and they're recharged. Some people need to have a death experience. They need to have their car totaled and in the hospital, and then to pull them out and take them over there and says, you are not doing what we agreed upon. What's in your contract? That's your contract. You wrote it. You wrote it. What you're doing in the life is what you came here to do. No one put you here. You put you here with this contract. It's not what's happening to you. It's what you came here to do. It's you. You are the one. That's what going to this thing. When we forget that, we have a near-death experience. We're pulled out of our bodies. We go through the portal. We see our relatives, and we go to the light, and the light says, remember. Remember who you are. And it's not easy. And you come back down, and you come back in your body. Was that real? Was that not real? In my particular case, I've had many of these experiences, and I decided to share knowledge and to research knowledge. That's not everybody's path, but the other thing we need to talk about is that only certain people will get selected. And those people, they're not chosen, but they are a special class of soul. They're a special class of soul who have a specific contract, and they incarnate. And this special soul, and we've talked about this before, the special soul does not want to reincarnate. If you don't graduate, you're going to reincarnate. And for you, if you have an NDE experience, your goal is to end the reincarnation process. And so if you're not going to be able to do that, you have an experience, a reminder, you see things differently, you make changes in your life. If that's not enough, you have another experience. If that's not enough, you have people come down and they remind you. In your sleep, in your dreams, they take you in the night. They pull you out in the night and they remind you, they teach you, they remind you, they teach you, they remind you, you come back and say, okay, I got to talk about this. They want me to talk about this. They want me to write a book. But, so NDEs are unique. You do not want to come back. You want to end the reincarnation process. And to do so, you need to do what you're supposed to do. And once you finish that, if there's more, you need to do that. That is very important. Now, at some point, we'll talk about that special group of souls. But you are a special soul, a more advanced soul, and you came here for very specific reasons. And for whatever reason, you get trapped in the body. The body is very addictive. Life is very addictive. Temptations are everywhere. Look over here, look over there. So pulling you out and putting you back is to get you back on the path. Now, once you complete that laundry list, there might be another laundry list. You want to seek out another laundry. Now I'm ready for more. Don't be afraid to do more. It might cost you in other ways. That I can't control. I can say that I have, everything has cost me. As a result, as a consequence, I've become a more spiritual person. And I am of a presence, and I'm speaking, and I'm sharing, and I'm still going through life. I have my challenges. I have my work to do. I'm still being pushed out of my comfort zone. I'm still learning about myself. It's not over. So there are on the earth people who are stuck in the reincarnation process. And we need to end it. We need to learn, and we need to do what we're supposed to do, and we need to graduate. If you are an NDE experiencer, if you are an NDEer, you are one of these people. Whether you remember your NDE or not. And that means if you're not on the path, or you're afraid of the path, then you are stuck in the reincarnation cycle. And that's not good. You're not supposed to be on this cycle, the wheel, you know. You need to get out. You need to leave. You need to leave. At the end of this life, do what you're supposed to do. Learn what you're supposed to learn. And graduate. And if once you graduate, you won't come back. The opposite of that is you don't learn, you don't do what you're supposed to do because you're afraid. I don't have this, and I don't have that, and I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do that. You don't do it, you don't learn, you don't finish your tasks, and then you'll come back again. And that is a terrible, terrible thing. Again, we've talked about this before. Earth is a school, and you're in grades, the grade 1 to 12, and you're in grade 12, and everyone's graduating, and you fail, you don't show up, or you fail your test, and that next year they fail you, and you got to retake grade 12. And you've been retaking grade 12 for 1,000 years. Why am I stuck in grade 12? And everyone else has moved on. So those people, they are stuck in the same grade. You come back in a different body, same misery. But you didn't learn, right? When you don't learn something, you get afraid. When you don't learn it again, you get angry. When you don't learn it again, you're afraid and angry. And then you're depressed. When you don't learn it again, you're afraid, you're angry, you're depressed, and the last thing you want to think about is that thing. And then you fail again, you come back, you're angry, depressed, afraid, you don't want to think about it, and then you start doing things to harm yourself. When you fail again, you come back, it's like you are doing all kind of crazy stuff. Same with reincarnation. We need to get back and graduate. Life after death. Life after life. The first life is here, and this is the second life. So when you leave here, you go back to your old life. Or something like